an AMA, but then also was just saying some things. The first one that stuck out to me, he talks about the ones that got away, and it was Nate Jones, who's a well-known NBA figure, and said, I like the Mikal Bridges thing after Mikal Bridges got his extension. He says, I like Mikal Bridges. Haralabos quote tweets that and says, the ones that got away chronologically. Here we go. So this is players that the Mavericks could have gotten if a couple of things had gone right, whether the owner says yes or the front office pulls off a move or something. These are the players that Haralabos says he targeted basically that got away from the Mavericks. Mikal Bridges, Duncan Robinson, Robert Covington, Matisse Thybulle, Alex Caruso, Christian Wood, Tyrese Halliburton. All those players could have been Mavericks at some point. And by the way, Haralabos Voulgaris was an analytics guy that was brought in by Mark Cuban to the organization. I'm sure everybody knows this at this point, but if you don't know this, he was brought in for Mark Cuban to have somebody else to kind of be a voice, the analytics voice for the team, and he really butted heads. There was this big article in The Athletic over the offseason where he butted heads with Luka, he butted heads with, it seemed like, Carlisle, with Donnie Nelson, definitely with the people in the front office. We heard things about how he was butting heads in the front office. There's just all kinds of things that happened with that. It was a big conversation over the summer. Everybody asked Cuban, and everybody is Bob still on the team? What about Bob? And now he's gone. His contract was not renewed by Nico Harrison. So that's who Bob is. So he talks about players that got away. He actually did have some say in some of these players. And so let's just speculate wildly and go through. When do we think these actually happen? So Mikal Bridges, the first one that comes to mind is like, okay, same draft as Luka. It's not like they were going to draft him over Luka. So maybe they had like some kind of trade on the table available for that. That's the only thing that kind of makes sense, because I don't think that Phoenix was looking to trade him after the draft. So maybe a draft night trade with, I think it was the 76ers that initially drafted him.
Yeah, it's crazy when you look at Mikal and Zaire Smith, and I was texting with a friend of mine, Scott, today about just the difference of careers in Mikal and Zaire Smith. And it's like, one just got paid $20 million a year. The other one is not in the league anymore.
What's he do? Yeah, what's he doing? I don't even know.
But no, yeah, I mean, yes, it would have probably had to be Luka Doncic's draft.
Which, yeah, so that night,
not over Luka, but like you said, Philly, Phoenix, they worked out a draft, night trade. We had all, if you remember draft night, the whole Mikal, like, oh, his mom worked for the franchise in Philly, he's going to Philly, and then bam, he went to Phoenix.
I forgot about that
and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I think if we want to naturally try to read between the lines here, saying could have been that draft, possibly so, and could they have walked away with that draft with Luka and Mikal Bridges? I don't know. Now, I will say
that would have been awesome.
You phrased something in a way of like the Mavericks could have gotten these guys. He did like preface in this of saying like the reason why they didn't, it's not like that Dallas said no, and that's why they didn't get all of these players. He did preface this of saying like,
that's true.
It's the powers that be, whether it's the Mavericks or convincing the other teams that like to get them.
That's true. This was his quote about these players that got, the ones that got away. He says either couldn't pull off a deal or couldn't convince the powers that be to make the deal. So there's maybe a couple
very vague comment by Bob there.
So it's like either the other team said no, or that Cuban
could have got Giannis.
Yeah, right.
But it's because either the powers that be or you just couldn't work out a deal. I mean,
so it's kind of hard to know which ones are which. But the Mikal Bridges one, it's a fun what if, because if the Mavs had Luka and Mikal Bridges, that's a